If Found is a visual novel developed by Dreamfield Studios and published by Annapurna. Set in Achill Island on the west coast of Ireland in 1993, it tells the story of Cassio, a trans woman coming home for Christmas after completing her Masters in Astrophysics in Dublin. Cassio is awaiting the decision of her PhD application and is dealing with her general sense of drift in her life and her struggles to come to terms with it. Over the course of the month of December, we witness her interactions with her confused and worrying mother, her angry and disgusted brother, and her friends who are all just as seemingly lost and drifting as she is, trying to deal with the bleak situation on the island and the constant chatter and small-mindedness of the other islanders. Oh, and there's a concurrent plotline where there's a black hole that will destroy the Earth, so no pressure. Mostly told through the medium of Cassio's diary, the structure of this visual novel is unique in that you progress through the story by erasing her entries. This helps to convey the sense of her world and her sense slipping from her as the story progresses. In between these parts, you'll be erasing the scenes and dialogues to reveal the next ones. The art is exceptional, loose and very detailed at the same time. It also lends to the chaotic nature of Cassio's life at the time. It's all hand-drawn by comic artist Leah Young, and it suits the game perfectly. The colour palette changes to depict the emotions in the scenes, and, backed up by a superb soundtrack and sound design, each scene is set up just right. This helps to sidestep the issue that many other games along with TV shows and movies have, whereby the music is there to almost force you to feel the way the directors want you to feel, without them having to do any work in the actual scene. But, as with all visual novels, the devil's in the details, or in other words, this dialogue and story. And If Found has a profoundly deep and moving one. Cassio's struggles to come to terms with her own new self is compounded by her family's confusion and outright refusal to accept it. From her vicious brother, who may be the most unlikable character in any game ever, constantly needling Cassio over what everyone else in the island thinks of her and her friends, to her mother being so uncertain about how to even talk to Cassio that in her letters she simply addresses Cassio as child. This rejection is held in stark contrast to her friends, namely Colm, Jack, who's Colm's boyfriend, and Chance, who have formed a band. Each of them is in a similar situation as Cassio. Colm and Jack with their openly gay relationship, and Chance trying to figure out where he belongs due to his half-Indian heritage and his own uncertain sexuality. These are prime societal issues now, but in rural Ireland in the early 90s, this would have had people priming their torches and sharpening their pitchforks. The group invite Cassio to join them in their squat in the squalid old parochial house while they rehearse in preparation for their first ever gig. It's here, in the interactions between these characters, that the dialogue truly shines. It's written incredibly authentically, with the only concession to a non-Irish audience being the glossary that can be used whenever an Irish term, or any term that's unlikely to be heard outside of Ireland, is used. The dialogue gives a sense of realism and fleshes out the world, gives it life. This is actually how people in Ireland talk, and it's marvellous to see that no corners were cut or edges rounded out. The parallel storyline of a black hole heading for Earth is where the game gets a little trippy. Set in the future where Cassio is an astronaut in space investigating the phenomenon with her only contact being the vaguely named Control. The animations, colour palette and music changing to a wilder, almost psychedelic tone. For me, this was also the weakest part of If Found. I felt the two stories meshed well until the end, and then they never resolved the space one properly. It just peters out and doesn't seem to go anywhere. I got the point of it at the end, but I felt that with such an engaging story, it really could have been ended better. Ultimately, your enjoyment of If Found will come down to if you enjoy a good story or visual novels. It's certainly a good enough game to convert people to the visual novel genre, but it's so distinct from the rest of the genre that I feel it does stand out on its own merits. If you're into visual novels, then If Found ticks virtually every box you've got. The story is wonderfully poignant and well told, the dialogue is flawless and the characters are all fantastic. The artwork, music and overall production are to of such a high quality, it's difficult to believe that this was done by such a small team. The themes tackled by If Found are ones that need more highlighting. The LGBTQI community scarcely get a look in most games and are shamefully underrepresented in gaming. But representation for its own sake won't help either. It needs to be effective and genuine, and this is the part that If Found gets the most right. It manages to convey Cassio's story in such a way that you'll get it with just an open mind. You don't need to be LGBTQI to understand the characters or the themes here, although having said that, I'd love to read a trans reviewer's take on this game. If I have to offer up any criticism at all, aside from the one previously mentioned, I'd have to say that the story starts very slowly, which is a bit bizarre for a game with a scant 2-hour playtime. If Found is a tale about how acceptance and love are vastly more important than understanding, about how our place in the world is defined so much more by how we see ourselves than anyone else, and about how erasing the pain of your past and letting it go is often the only way to move forward. And it's a game that needs to be played by everyone.